So, as you all know by now, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at a rally in Utah on Wednesday. I am beyond devastated, and my friends and family are beyond devastated because we know all the implications of this for America, for the church, for Christians. We are going to discuss this whole Charlie Kirk situation and see how the church should respond to this violent murder of Charlie Kirk. Hi, my name is Joshua Simone, and the ministry is named Torn Curtain. Not only did we have the shooting with Charlie Kirk, but we also had the deletion of Arena on a train in North Carolina, which was just a heinous crime on so many different levels. My blood was just still boiling over that situation, like I was beyond, like filled with a righteous rage, a righteous anger. Now, things were already hot before these two situations happened, but this situation will be a major turning point for this country and for the Church of Jesus Christ. This is way more than just about the shooting of one person in Charlie Kirk. This was a major wake-up call for our nation. It's time to wake up. It's time for the church to step up. It's time to wake from the slumber of American Christianity, of lukewarm Christianity, of a Christianity that's on the fence, that's not picking sides. We are in a spiritual war. And we see this evil against Christians that we can no longer deny. And the American church can no longer afford to be lukewarm. You have to pick a side because this is a spiritual battle and there will be many casualties in any battle. But we wrestle not with people with bodies. We wrestle not of flesh and blood, but we wrestle with demonic forces and they march as an army in rank and file. But greater are those who are with us than those that are against him. Look up on the hills to see the 10,000 times 10,000 angels that are on our side. And listen, this is not completely about politics either, about left and right. Although this spiritual battle is manifesting itself in politics right now, and those who have the Holy Spirit are very clear on what's happening and which side Satan seems to be influencing the most. What the enemy meant for evil in this situation, the Lord is going to use for his good, and the enemy is going to cry out in anguish when he realizes that he just multiplied Charlie Kirk 1,000 times over. And this generation is going to stand up and answer the call. The Bible says this in Colossians, that if they would have known, if Satan would have known what was going to happen at the crucifixion of Christ, that he would have never made that move, that God was going to raise him from the dead and redeem all humankind. So what looked like a defeat turned out to be the most decisive victory in human history. And I believe that in this situation, we can apply those verses to this situation. What the enemy meant for harm, God is going to use for his good. And we know this, that those are called according to his purposes, that he's going to use all things for the good of those who love him and are called according for his purpose. So God is going to use this great tragic situation and flip it around for his good. And he is going to surprise the forces of evil, that this is going to turn out to be a defeat. This is going to lead to a countercultural movement, which is going to change this nation and it will change this church. I know that just in the last few days, it's changed me. It's got me thinking, what is the big picture of my life? What do I want to do with my life? How am I going to make a difference? And how am I going to step up to be the church? And yes, this will lead to a major move of God. My uncle texted me this Bible verse right after the shooting. It's 1 Corinthians, the 16th chapter, verse 9. For a wide door for effective work has opened up to me, and there are many adversaries. If that situation doesn't apply to what's going on right now, yes, there is a great effective work that is going to open up through this situation. through God using this evil situation and turning it around for his good. But there are many adversaries. But we have this great loss to deal with. And pain, loss, and grief are a big part of the Christian world, and we can't avoid that no matter how we come. That's why we long for the next age. That's why we long to be with God in eternity, where he will wipe every tear from us and take all pain away. But in this life, we're going to experience many losses, and there's a lot of grief and sadness right now. And I'm hoping that yes, you, I'm talking to you, that the church would rise up and be the church. The church is the people. It is not a building and organization. And I hope if anything shifts in this, that you will see that God is calling you, yes, you, to respond to this situation. The church must rise up like never before and answer the call in this pivotal hour. But we are still grieving a very, very big loss. I know I have a tremendous hole in my heart. So Benny Johnson posted this on X, an empty chair of Charlie Kirk's chair. And just take a second to listen. That chair is now empty. And I want to declare here today, you are going to be one of the people that's going to fill that chair. And we're going to multiply Charlie Kirk's life. And we're going to make sure his memory lives on, his ministry lives on. And that people are going to know that this was a day that something changed in this nation. And that chair is empty right now. But I want to challenge you to see yourself in that chair. For you to be bold with your faith and unapologetic. Okay, so this is one picture for the rally that day. He's throwing out hats to people. You see here another side view picture of him throwing out hats to people, just having a good time. And then you'll see the infamous picture here of him debating a couple of minutes before this tragedy went down. And just again, with a smile on his feet, you'll notice that that's his main security guy there in the black shirt behind him that was supposedly as chief of security that was with him at all the events. So he was well guarded that day, but unfortunately in a public situation like this, it's just a tragedy. So a lot of people think as Christians, we're supposed to just sit in a church and sing songs. I'm going to suggest that what Charlie Kirk was doing was more church than a bunch of people singing songs. We have enough Christians singing songs these days and getting together and holding hands and singing Kumbaya. Now, I enjoy going to church. I enjoy public worship, but that should never replace our desire to go out there and to go out into all the world and proclaim Jesus and the values of the kingdom. So the good thing was about all of this is that he most likely died very quickly if he wasn't killed immediately on contact. The video of the situation is on X, and I don't suggest that you watch it. It is very violent, very, very violent. It's just a scary way to go out. The worst thing about all of this is that Charlie's kids and his wife were at this event. He has a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, as well as his parents. And I just hope that they weren't there up close to witness this. I just hope that they were in another section. So good old Barack Obama decided that this should be a good time to speak out. But he said, we don't know yet what motivated the person who killed Charlie Kirk. But this kind of despicable violence has no place in democracy. Michelle and I will be praying for Charlie's family tonight. Now, I'm going to totally disagree with Barack Obama, and I'm sure him and a lot of other Democrats were trying to downplay this and say, oh, don't look into this. I could have told you before we come to any evidence whatsoever exactly why Charlie Kirk was killed. Exactly, because the guy didn't do anything bad. He was a good guy, debating people on college campuses. And, you know, some people could say he had extreme ideology, if you want to say that, but not a reason to kill anybody. But make no mistake, Charlie Kirk was killed for his views, his conservative values, and his Christian faith, without question. And you're not going to tell me otherwise at all. This was the reason he was killed. And I'm sure the motive is going to come to light. We'll talk a little bit about that. So you see here via the New York Post is the gun recovered in Charlie Kirk's assassination revealed an ammo bore pro-trans, anti-facet messages, many sources were saying. So I'm going to have to highly disagree with Barack Obama, and I wish he wouldn't have took that opportunity to minimize the whole situation, to minimize and dismiss, and I guess they really have to because their party looks terrible right now. So what was Charlie Kirk guilty of? Well, he was a proponent of conservative values, of strong family values, of Christian values, and this was the reason that he was gunned down, because many felt that he was an extreme fascist, right-wing fascist. And the problem is with this is because the church is so weak, because the pulpits are so weak, because we have this watered-down, gummy bear, Mickey Mouse church that basically is so watered down, is seeker sensitive, that churches are like coffee bars. And some of the churches are even meeting in bars these days. And it's become so watered down that I was reading a poll the other day that only 3% of churches mention sin in a sermon. And if you want to look at this situation, what happened? It's not guns. It's the sinful condition of the human heart that causes people to rebel against God and his order and to do terrible things like this. This is not a left wing or a right wing thing. This is a sin thing. And this has been going on since Cain in the book of Genesis, that murdered his brother for jealousy because he didn't like his whole stick. But I want to just say this. Whatever happened to respectfully disagreeing with people? So someone spouts a different opinion than yours, you just agree to disagree. Now, if someone disagrees with you, they label you a hate speech, they want to try to kill you, they go after you, they give you death threats on social media, and it's really a sad place in our country. And this is a spiritual war between good and darkness. So if you take anything out of this video, this is not right wing versus left wing, etc. It's way bigger than that. This is a spiritual war against demonic forces and angels that are wrestling hand by hand behind the scenes that we can't see. And those who have spiritual discernment know exactly what's going on here. If you have the Holy Spirit, if you have spiritual discernment, you know who the bad guys are and who the good guys are. You know which is the good side and which is the bad side, whether it's in politics or society, because God is beginning to separate the sheep and the goats, and it's happening right in front of our eyes. And this whole started during the pandemic in 2020, where God was just bringing a whole bunch of things to the surface so we could see that we didn't even have to use our discernment anymore. We're being able to see that God is allowing evil wickedness to come to into the surface so that we are not left without excuse. Here's a post of a pastor friend of mine, one of the people I trust in ministry, Shane Eidelman. He's in California. So he knows as well as I do in New York, we are facing straight up demonic governments that will eventually turn on Christians. And neither one of us, we're standing our ground. We're not leaving. We're not cowering in defeat. And he said this, the only way to make sense of the rejoicing. I pray the demons rejoice when I die too. And if your faith isn't provoking an action, if your faith isn't influencing anything, if your faith isn't getting anybody upset or riving anybody up, then I would say you need to get back in the prayer closet and start reading the Bible. Because wherever Jesus went, he upset the culture. He upset things. And the truth is they called him a demon, and they celebrated and mocked him and spit at him. And we shouldn't think any different. So Shane was saying, I pray the demons rejoice when I die too. Just like they were rejoicing over the death of a 31-year-old Charlie Kirk, who has 2 young kids and a wonderful wife, a wonderful Christian wife. Here's a great post from Charlie Kirk, great quote. You can tell a lot about a person about how they react when someone dies. He said this on November 2016. And wow, it's like a prophet speaking from the grave. And this is bringing to the surface the real deeper divide in our country, the callousness of heart, the hardness of heart, that people are only looking out for themselves. They're only thinking about themselves. They don't have compassion anymore. They're lovers of self. They're rebellious. How could you celebrate when another person is killed, even if you didn't like their ideas, or even if you thought their ideas are strange, this is just demonic. People were celebrating after he was shot, celebrating in the streets. So you're seeing here that there's just a major heart problem in America. So it ain't even just about Charlie Kirk. When you have people answering questions like this, when you are celebrating when somebody was just trampled down like that, is just unbelievable. We have a tremendous amount of heart problem, and we failed all these young people. If they're being raised up celebrating somebody else, celebrating him, and it's just unbelievable. And really, that is why you hear over and over again, although being politically involved is important, politics don't change the heart. And that's why it must start with God. It must start with Jesus Christ. It must start with his church, because we need to pray that God would give these people a heart of flesh and not a heart of stone. Because what did Charlie Kirk do? He was made famous for having public debates with people, and talking with people, and talking with the young people. And it's another form of discipleship, to answer their questions, to go through basically their thinking process and what they're thinking. He was never mean or nasty to people, although some people probably didn't like some of his responses. No reason to celebrate anyone's death. And if you're celebrating his death, there is something wrong with you, and there is something psychologically wrong with you. Because I wouldn't even celebrate an enemy's death, because death is final. It is final. And how did we get to the place in a world, in America, in a free country, where people are celebrating the death of someone else? Now, I probably said some stupid things at 20 years old, so I'm going to give some of these young kids a break, but I don't think that I would have celebrated the death of anyone. But in recent times, Charlie Kirk was a gem. He did say some pretty stupid things when he was younger, okay? Because people emailed me, how could you support Charlie Kirk? He said this and that and that and this. And I researched some of it, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty terrible what he said. And there were a couple of situations where I looked into, and I say, man, God, I don't know why he said that. But then again, you got to think, he started this ministry when he was 18 years old. Okay, what was I like at 18 years old or 20 years old or even 25 years old? Okay, so I had some immature, stupid views, and Charlie did have some pretty big, terrible comments that he said sprinkled in. But I just want to give the guy grace because he was young. But in recent times, Charlie Kirk was a stand-up guy. You know, he always kept a loving demeanor with people. He seemed to be patient and kind for the most part. I watched a couple of his debates in the last couple of days, and he often won the debates. And this is not easy to do with college kids, to sit there and argue with them, okay? Because college kids are pretty smart. So now we're going to get into the implications of all of this. What can we take away from this? What should be our response? How should the church respond? How should the world respond? So we're going to listen to Ben Shapiro and what he has to say.
We're going to pick up that bloodstained microphone where Charlie left it. And to those who would intimidate, who would seek to stop us, who would seek to end free discussion, who believe that they have ownership over public spaces and can violently threaten and kill people who speak freely, we are not going to stop. And I have two words: fuck you. We will not stop telling the truth. We will never stop telling the truth. We will never stop debating and discussing. We will never stop standing up for what America is and for what she should be. And we will never let Charlie Kirk's voice die. Goodbye to my friend, Charlie Kirk.
Okay, so we're going to get into the implications of all of this. And the truth is what they did is they made a martyr out of Charlie Kirk. And they made a big, major mistake. They made a big mistake. And let's be clear, he is a Christian martyr. And they didn't just kill Charlie Kirk that day. The truth is a lot of these people that are filled with demons, they're coming for you next. They're coming for those that have Judeo-Christian values, that used to be valued, that used to be respected in this country, that used to be the fabric of this country. There are some out there that are violent radicals that would look to bring an end to people's lives. They hate you and want you dead. And this goes for people that are on this list I am telling you, these forces are deeply demonic. There are demonic forces through all this. And I know that's hard to hear in the age of modernity, of reason and education. But let me just tell you something. In world history, there is not a civilization that did not believe in the forces of good and evil fighting behind the scenes. And they're coming after those who are conservatives. They're coming for those that support Trump and are MAGA. They're coming after those that support Israel. They're coming after people who believe in family values, male leadership, the promotion of the family and children as the foundation for society. They hate that stuff. They're coming against it. And those who believe in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ is the greatest event in human history, and that our lives and everything else should be shaped by that. They're coming after you. And the truth is they set off a war that happened. They set off a war through killing this beautiful man, Charlie Kirk. And the truth is if you touch one of us in the body of Christ, you just declared war on us all. This is an attack on all Christians, on all conservatives and people. This is a wake-up call because they're coming for some of you next. These people hate God. They hate limits. They hate structure. They hate anything that has to deal with God and moralities. It's just, we need to realize the era of darkness that we have entered into. This is an attack on all Christians. And the truth is they have multiplied Charlie Kirk 1,000 times over through this whole situation. And I have decided, I don't know about you, I have decided that I'm going to be more bold than ever in speaking up. I'm going to be more bold than ever in lifting my voice. I'm going to be a light in the darkness. And I'm going to be compassionate and kind, but I am going to stand for truth. And you are not going to silence conservatives. You are not going to silence Christians. And I will start doing public events within the next year, straight out. I've done street ministry in New York City for years. And let me just tell you something. You get death threats. You put your life on the line. It's a dangerous situation, but God protected me in all of those situations. And it's time for us to raise our voices louder than ever. There is a spirit of fear out there that tells Christians, no, you got to back down. Oh, it's getting too dangerous out there. No, and we need to do ministry smart. We need to take natural precautions and be very street smart and realize that people are coming after us. The things that I've seen in street ministry, very serious situations. God protected us, but you still have to put in practical implications of all this and have street smarts as well as spiritual discernment. And I've seen that a lot of others like Ben Shapiro, I saw Shane Winnings, a lot of other people are going to be hitting the college campuses more than ever. And that should be our response to do this. Christians need to be more bold than ever, and this will probably ensure that there is a movement of God in this generation, and it will probably ensure that there's going to be a political movement in this country towards the right, and I wouldn't be surprised if this whole situation ensures a Republican candidate in 2028. Just think of the whole situation after our president almost lost his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. That ensured he was going to get elected from that moment on. And this is another one of those situations. They tried to put an end to Charlie Kirk, but they didn't understand that they pushed the tide in the opposite direction. And not to mention that this shooting happened on a college campus, and these young kids will not forget what happened to Kirk because they were there. This image is going to be stuck in their brains. Those that are in high school and college right now, this is a social media generation, okay? They are not going to forget this, and this is going to backfire. This is going to draw more young people into the church. We are seeing that particularly with the young men, they are returning to churches, and they're returning to traditional churches. not the gummy bear, watered down Christianity. They're going to Orthodox churches. They're going in churches that have liturgy, male leadership, that promote family values. The young men are having a revival, and they're returning to churches in record numbers. And this was happening before this Charlie Kirk situation. So we need to be praying for this next generation. It's always about the next generation. Charlie Kirk fought for them. We need to be fighting for them, the kids and the grandkids, to make sure that this Christian thing is not just an individual thing, that this goes down to the second and third and fourth generations, that for 1,000 generations, we're going to send Christ into my bloodline. I know for me and my house, we serve the Lord. And this is going to be a multi-generational thing and a household thing, not just an individual accepting Christianity. So they did this to the young people. They gave them this image. This is going to backfire majorly. So let's talk about in the churches. If you're going to a church that doesn't speak about this on Sunday, you are at the wrong church. We have arrived at this situation because we have a bunch of coward pastors that are not confronting cultural wars. Some of them are just full-blown liberal progressives. We need to get rid of them to begin with. And then you have the others that are conservative, but they're cowards. They won't speak up on anything. They don't want to talk about the cultural wars. I heard Stephen Furtick said this, we don't address anything that's controversial. We don't address certain things in church because that's not our place. That's not our line. You're a coward. And I tell him to his face that Stephen Furtick is a coward. And pastors that preach like that are cowards. And they're not going to survive in this next generation because the younger kids are not going to fall for the cotton candy Christianity that has no spine, that has no backbone, that has no teeth. That's not Christianity. That's cowardice. And it says in Galatians 5:19 that cowards will not accept the kingdom of God. That means that you should have done something. You should have spoken up. You should have taken a stand, but you were scared on what it would cost you. And if you're going to a church that has a coward leadership, get out now. We're coming into a place of great shaking within the church, and this is not time to be at a church where they're playing patty cake on Sunday and the pastor doesn't know how to address these issues. Though Richard Foster said this, we need the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in other, because biblical prophecy is unfolding in our life, in our times, and we're trying to interpret what's going on. And there is a marriage of those things. Now, the pulpit is not primarily for speaking about the Bible, for Jesus Christ. It should not be used as a political thing, but there are times we have to get political. There are times we have to address cultural wars. Some people go to the other extreme. That's all they do, talk about politics and cultural wars. We need to sprinkle that stuff in at times. While we're preaching the gospel, while we're focused on the Bible, we need to address cultural wars at things that are going on in the culture. And we need to address that stuff boldly. We can't do it all the time because the main purpose to be in church are spiritual matters. So Charlie Kirk is going to explain why we must speak up, while you must speak up. So I'm going to play a quick short from him right now.
Hey, what do I do? What do I do? I ask them, are you the same person publicly that you are privately? That's the most important thing that you just have to do. No more disguising yourself when you leave your home. No more that you got to put on the jersey of being kind of this like secular liberal when you're at work. No, you are living under the tyranny of other pressure. Yes, you might lose your job. Yes, you might lose your friends. But the moment that you have to now pretend to be somebody you're not in social situations, then they've won. The minute that breaks, then all of a sudden they're going to start to lose. Their power is in their ability to make us to conform. Do not conform to the ways of this world. It is a biblical teaching. Yet so often, Kirk, the number one piece of feedback I get on our program here on our podcast, Charlie, I am afraid I will lose this. And I say that fear is a tactic used by the enemy to silence truth. Is understandable. But if you succumb to that fear, then all of a sudden you are playing into the greatest weapon used by the opposition.
Okay, so great advice from Charlie Kirk right there. We want to honor his legacy. That's why I'm trying to throw in some clips of him here and there. We honor his life and his ministry, which was exceptional. He set an example for all of us. And I know for me, I'm going to be more bold than ever. But this idea of being a nice Christian, covert Christian is over. Being a secret Christian only at home, but when you're at work and other places, you're just stay silent because you don't want to rock the boat, because you don't want to get in trouble. You're being a coward. You're being a coward, and that's not being a Christian. And Jesus said this: if you deny me in front of men, I will deny you in front of the angels in heaven. And so we have a responsibility to be bold in our faith and proclaim Jesus and be a city on a hill. No more being quiet Christians. No more being an undercover Christian. We've got to be loud with our faith, because if we don't, we abdicate all of these cultural wars, all of these things. We roll over and the enemy takes ground, and he's taken way too much ground in America. And now it's time to push back. So real quick, I wanted to do a quick tribute slideshow of Charlie Kirk, to just play some pictures of him and his family, a couple of pictures of him smiling, and I just wanted to honor him with a quick slideshow. So I wanted to close this video today in prayer. We're going to pray for Charlie's wife and his 2 small children and his parents. And we're going to pray that 1,000 Charlie Kirks would be arisen up in this generation. And we're going to pray for a great move of God in America, and that the church would step up and answer the call. And I want to be very clear here. As it says in 1 Corinthians, the 16th chapter, there's a wide open door for an effective work has opened up. But there are many adversaries. There are many adversaries, and we have to understand that we're in a spiritual war. But greater are those who are with us than is with them. Thank you for watching today. Be blessed.